Hey guys, welcome back to the Gloria Living channel. My name is Hannah, and it is a rainy day here in East Tennessee, and so it is a perfect day to make the best chocolate cake you've ever had. Let's go check it out. We have a sweet tooth in our house and just have a total love for dessert. And this chocolate cake that we stumbled over has been a total game changer. My husband wanted it for his birthday cake, and it's just a chocolate bundt cake, but it is so good and so consistent in the way it comes out. I needed to share this recipe with you guys. I know that your family is gonna love it because our family absolutely loves it. So guys, come along with me. I'm gonna show you how to make it. We're gonna get into the ingredients and get baking this awesome cake. Okay, as you heard me reference, this is a bundt cake. So get your bundt pan, if you have it, whatever shape you want to use. And we're gonna prepare a bundt pan in just a minute, but you're gonna want a bundt pan to cook this in, and guys, it's awesome. I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks on how to have a more successful turning over of your bundt cake pan when you take it out of the oven so that you have that still beautiful shape. Let's get into the ingredients. So starting with some of our dry ingredients, we're gonna have 1 3/4 cup of flour, 2 cups of sugar, granulated sugar. We're gonna have 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2/3 cup of cocoa powder, like unsweetened. Additionally, you're gonna have 1 cup of melted butter. We have our hot water here. We'll have 3/4 cup of hot water, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 3 eggs, and honestly, what I think makes this so delicious, 3/4 cup of sour cream. Additional to that is over here, we are going to make a little ganache kind of frosting for the top. That would normally be made with a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream and 4 ounces, 1/2 cup I just do, of some type of chocolate. That could be bittersweet chocolate, that could be semi-sweet chocolate. We're just using semi-sweet chocolate chips. I actually didn't have heavy cream. I only had 1/2 and 1/2, and I kind of forgot about that today. I'm just gonna do it with 1/2 and 1/2. Normally I do it with heavy cream. I'm gonna see if it comes out, because heavy cream is not something I have on hand. We always have 1/2 and 1/2 though. So I'm gonna use that today, and hopefully that'll come out good. Okay, so the way that we're gonna prepare our bundt pan is I have a paper towel in here, and I have some butter on it. There are times when you are preparing a cake pan that you'll use oil and flour. For a bundt pan, if you use butter and flour, it's gonna come out better. Additional to the butter, I also have flour mixed with cocoa powder, and I mix that in, a 1/2 tablespoon of each. And so when you do that, it doesn't have that white coating on the outside, that you have the cocoa powder that kind of helps blend that floury coating a little bit better. Okay, so we're gonna take our butter and we're just gonna rub it around inside our pan, and we're gonna try and get into every little crevice because that's where it's going to want to stick and break apart. Bundt cakes are just notorious for wanting to be a pain to get out, and to get out to still be pretty. When you've got all these ridges, there's lots of places it can break, but there's a few tricks, and I think using butter instead of oil is definitely one of the tricks you want to do. It helps not stick. So there's a lot of, I don't want to say gimmicks out there, but there's a lot of things that people say, oh, this is the best way to get it to not stick. I'll tell you that from experience, this is the best way to get it to not stick. I haven't, it's not, your bundt cake probably is not going to come out necessarily 100% of the time perfect, okay? But this is, I think, gonna get you there easier and faster. And really make sure that on this inner ring here, you're really getting it greased up, because that's where it's going to want to break and crack. The other tip that we'll talk about in a little bit, and at least remind you of, is that it really matters on how long you let it rest outside of the oven before you flip it over. Next, I'm going to shake this cocoa powder and flour inside of here. And what might be good too to think about is kind of doing it on the inside ring, because you can knock it out on the outside easier than you can get it on the inside ring. So, and then you're just gonna circle that around, tap it on the edges as you go. You gotta get nice, even coating. When I'm done, you're gonna have excess after I've gone all around this. I usually do this over the sink, and I'm gonna bring the rest of this to the sink and I'll show you my finished product. When you're done, tap it over top of your faucet or whatever, and the excess will come off, and you won't have too much cocoa powder in there. Here's what my pan looks like, covered in the cocoa powder and butter. Try and get it all around there. Okay, so next we are going to put our dry ingredients together. We're gonna mix our flour, our sugar, and our salt, and baking soda as well. So mix that all together. Next, we wanna mix our melted butter, our hot water. I get my hot water straight from the Keurig. I warm up, it doesn't have to go through anything like one of the K-Cups, but I just warm it up through the Keurig, kind of like an old-fashioned hot shot to get it hot. You could warm it up in a tea kettle, you could do whatever, but that's how I warm up mine. And then our cocoa powder. So the butter, the water, and the cocoa powder all in one bowl. You know, want to mix that together until it's well combined. You could do this in an electric mixer today. I'm just going to be doing it by hand. Okay, next on the list is going to be our eggs, our vanilla, and our sour cream. We're going to combine all of them together. We're going to put our flour, sugar, salt, and baking soda into this bowl. We're also going to put our cocoa powder, our butter, and our hot water into the mix with our dry ingredients. And then we are going to put our egg, sour cream, and vanilla in here as well. I got ahead of myself and started mixing this sour cream with the eggs and the vanilla. You can just throw those in with the dry ingredients and the chocolate. But you want to mix this all together until it is well combined. This is where an electric mixer is very helpful, but it's not necessary. Just make sure you're doing it really, really well. Okay, now that our ingredients have been well combined, you can see this nice, beautiful, light chocolate mixture. We are going to pour it into our bundt cake pan. And once we do this, we're going to throw it into our oven, which has been preheated to 350 degrees. And we are going to let it bake for 40 to 50 minutes. The way that we're going to know whether this is ready is we're going to insert a toothpick into the center, and if it comes out clean, then it is ready. Now that our cake is in its pan, we're going to put it in the oven on the middle rack and let it sit there and bake for 40 to 50 minutes. In 40 minutes, we'll come check it, put a toothpick in, and see how it's doing. Okay guys, so I pulled it out, I put a toothpick in the middle, and it came out clean. It only took a little bit longer than the 40 minutes. I also put a timer on. This says to pull this out and to flip it between 8 to 10 minutes after you take it out. I have it on a cooling rack, if you can see that. I have it on a cooling rack. And what I'm going to do now is just slide a spatula around the sides. You can use a knife. Mine is a non-stick, and I've already accidentally scratched it a little bit with a knife. I might gently go down with the knife, and I usually have a thinner spatula that I like to use, but I used it earlier. But you just want to loosen things up, especially around this center area. Have a little less than 3 minutes to go. I'm just going to slide my knife in gently. And this is just going to kind of help the bundt cake loosen from the sides and hopefully not get caught. What I have learned and been taught is that 10-minute rule for a bundt cake is crucial. So having it 10 minutes in here before you flip it, no more, no less, that's really the game changer. I like to have a baking pan. This one is beat up and old, but this is a baking sheet that I have that I'm going to put my cooling rack over top of so that the cake is just situated for where I'll have it later when I pour the ganache over. And now the moment of truth, I am going to gently flip this out. All right, guys, that is exactly the way it's supposed to go. What a success. Look at that. And it is gorgeous, and it didn't even break. And I'm shifting it. I'll probably break it in half while I start to shift it. Oh, beautiful and perfect and just the way we wanted. Guys, the cake is looking so good so far. It's gonna look even better when we put that ganache on it. I'm gonna show you how to do that soon, but we're gonna let our cake cool off just a little bit more. All right, guys, well, the original recipe says to let this cake cool at least 30 minutes, but I'll tell you the truth, it was getting towards dinner time, and by the time that 30 minutes was up, it was really time to be cooking dinner, and I was in the midst of that. So I have waited till after dinner, and the family is super anxious to dig into this, so we're gonna get working on this. The cake is now pretty much cooled. It's been cooling for a while. Not totally cold, but it's gonna be cool enough. I have got my half and half, which should be heavy whipping cream, but I'm just substituting for half and half. We're gonna see what turns out today. Warm that up and heat it up to just at a simmer. And once we do that, I've got my chocolate chips here, my semi-sweet chocolate chips, and this is a half a cup or 4 ounces of this chocolate. And I'm going to pour over that simmering half and half of cream over top of it. And then I'm gonna let it sit there for about 4 minutes. And we'll show you what that looks like here. Okay, so I am going to turn this on kind of medium low here. and we'll get this simmering. You just want a few small bubbles coming up and you'll know you have heated it enough. In the middle, your edge might have bubbles just from pouring it in, but the simmering is you're gonna start seeing a little bit of movement in your cream. You can see a little bit of steam starting to come off as it's warming up. You can give it a little stir. What happens with this is it starts to get a little bit of a kind of a thin skin on top. All right, so what we can actually see here is a little bit of bubbling starting to occur. So as that is happening, we don't want it to boil, we just want it to simmer, and we're starting to get a lot of bubbles around the edge and bubbles inside if it might be hard to see. But we're gonna take this now that it has begun to simmer, and we're gonna pour it over our chocolate. We're gonna leave this chocolate here for 4 minutes to sit, and when we come back, we'll stir it all together. Okay, if you are anything like me, you're asking yourself a question like, why? Why do I have to let that sit for 4 minutes? Well, honestly, it's just probably for the sake of getting that heat from the heavy cream or the half and half like I'm using to really penetrate the chocolate so that it's fully melted. So when you mix that in, you're not gonna have hard lumps of unmelted chocolate. So that sitting for 4 minutes is good to let it all melt and get a smooth ganache on top of your cake. Okay, so I am going to mix this in now, then I'll let it sat for a few minutes. And I'm hoping it'll be just as creamy with the half and half as it is with the heavy cream. Ooh. Okay guys, so when I started mixing this in with the half and half, what I ended up finding was that it was a little bit thinner and didn't work quite in the same way as it usually had. So I ended up adding some more chocolate chips, which in my mind, I thought I was going to have to do, and I should have just done. I should have followed my instinct, but I didn't. Before this cools off too much more, I like to use my gravy bowl to pour this over. It's kind of... Well guys, this cake looks awesome, and we are gonna super enjoy cutting into it tonight as a dessert after dinner. Guys, thank you for watching this video. I'll show you some snapshots here afterwards in a minute once we cut it open of what it looks like on the inside. It's just a beautiful, moist, perfect cake. One lesson I did learn, man, do not substitute for half and half. It gave me a hard time. And honestly, the ganache has never given me a hard time when I use the heavy cream. So I would say don't do half and half. Use the heavy cream and make sure you get it really, really hot. Like you don't want to boil it, but simmer it. Make sure it is very warmed through for the simmering, and then pour it over your chocolate. Make sure you've got all those going, because otherwise you could get a lumpy, not mixed in well chocolate ganache. Other than that, other than my ganache giving me a hard time, which it never has until, of course, we record to do it, this went really like a charm, and it came out beautifully. I mean, I could not have been happier with it coming out of the Bundt pan. It looks so beautiful. So we're gonna enjoy this. I'm gonna show you what the inside of it looks like in a minute when we cut it open for our family. And guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you again for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are not already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video, and remember to hit that bell for notifications so that you always know when we're putting out a new video for you guys. Leave a comment on the video and tell us what you thought of this recipe if you give it a shot. I know your family's gonna love it. Our family absolutely does. Until next time, guys, we'll see you soon.